All right, let's get back to politics. The possibility of a contested GOP convention looms in the not too distant future, and some say the head of the RNC has lost control of the process, including Newsmax CEO Christopher Ruddy.
Reince Priebus has been a disaster. He's lost control of the party. You now have one candidate dictating the terms of debates, when he's going to show up, whether he's going to do. It's a really bad situation.
Ruddy made the comments during an interview on CNN last Friday. He also argued that one of the main problems is that there really is no Republican Party left. Yesterday, Priebus singled out Donald Trump when he made it clear that just because a candidate has the majority of the votes, it doesn't mean he will necessarily win the nomination. Newsmax political analyst Dick Morris calls it, quote, outrageous.
I know it's within the rules, but the rules are wrong and need to change. And shame on Kasich and on the Republican leaders for trying to exploit the loopholes in those rules.
And that's where we would like to welcome in today's roundtable. Joining us, Liz Peek, columnist at the Fiscal Times, and Franco Ripple, Democratic strategist. Thank you both for joining us here on this Monday. Liz, let's start with you. Is there a Republican Party left?
Well, yes, I think there is. And by the way, I don't think Reince Priebus or anybody else ever had control of it. Look, this is a democratic process, and I'd say both sides are right. Donald Trump, if he gets very close to that magic 1,237 number, I think has every right to expect to end up with the nomination. The rules are, though, that he doesn't automatically get it, and if he has distanced himself sufficiently from the party apparatus, all those delegates and people who are in place courtesy of the party rules, basically, then he won't get it. That's just the way the rules are written, and that's the way it should work out. However, I think for so many GOP leaders to band together to try and thwart Donald Trump is stupid. Number one, it probably won't work, and you're going to look kind of stupid like they do now. And secondly, you're just going to disenfranchise an enormous number of voters. We're never going to win in November if all of Trump's people either write in his name, look for him to run as a third-party candidate, or basically just don't vote. That's just a really losing proposition to me.
Frank, I want to get your thought on this as a Democratic strategist, I know, but do you think that Reince Priebus kind of crossed the line, as Dick Morris suggested?
Well, frankly, Dick Morris's line of reasoning is patently ridiculous when it comes to this. There are rules in place for a reason, and as Reince Priebus himself said, a plurality is not a majority. A majority is a majority, and the minority does not speak for the majority. He's absolutely right to try to enforce some rules, but I have a feeling for Reince Priebus, this is a little bit what it was like to be the captain on the Titanic. Because the ship is sinking, and the Republican Party has been in, despite what we may think with the 2010 takeover of the House and occasionally winning the presidency, I think the Republican Party is on its way out as we know it, because demographically it just can't keep up with where real Americans are moving to, and that's the Democratic Party. So I do think he's lost control of it. Just think about just a couple of weeks ago, he said he gives it a 15% chance that there's a brokered convention, which is unbelievable if you think about it.
So you're saying the Republican Party is just falling apart at the seams. Is that what you're saying, Franco?
Can I interrupt here?
Let's let Franco finish, and then I'll get your take, Liz. Go ahead, Franco.
Yes, that is what I'm saying. And you know what? It's not like they're going to cease to exist in all elections going forward. What I'm saying is that the demographics of America, which are becoming more and more progressive, less and less white, and moving more towards the Democratic Party, combined with a party that has been willing to go after the least common denominator of anger and fear in its body politic for a long time, now it's coming home to roost.
Liz.
Okay, we're I guess throwing under the bus the fact that Republicans are in charge of more state governments than they've ever been before, and that the 2014 election was a referendum on President Obama and those so-called progressive values, and it completely threw them under the bus as well. So I think, look, it's always very tempting to look at 6 months of tumult and say, oh my gosh, something is falling apart. I would say the Democrats have enormous problems. Their front runner is someone who is basically disliked by a majority of the country, and her only competition is a 74-year-old socialist from Vermont.
And we're gonna get to that during the second round of our roundtable. So hold that thought, because I want to talk to you about that. But I want to go back to the Republican Party. I know you both differ on opinions when it comes to what's going on in the Republican Party, but clearly there is some chaos going on there. Liz, do you think that they can unite before that convention in July?
I don't know if it'll be before the convention. My hope would be, and my expectation will be, that they will indeed unite in November and beat Hillary Clinton. That's really the objective here. And even now, if Donald Trump turns out to be the nominee, there's obviously a lot of skepticism about his unpopularity in the party. But even now, we're beginning to see him reach out to the party. And believe me, if he looks like he's going to be the guy carrying the standard for the GOP, you'll see an awful lot of people come around who today are either sitting on the fence or saying, never Trump.
I'm sorry, I don't think there's any evidence that Donald Trump is reaching out to the party, because it's actually quite the contrary. Over the last several days, there have been reports of senior U.S. senators and their staffs reaching out to the Trump apparatus, as it were, and getting absolutely rebuffed. So no, I think Trump is a one-man.
Actually,
sorry.
I think he's meeting with quite a group today.
Yes, he's finally meeting with some senior Republicans on Capitol Hill. But the question is it just window dressing? And I would say, yes, it is a dog and pony show.
Well, we don't actually know what happened behind closed doors. Hopefully we'll find out more in the coming days. But one last question to you both. Real quickly, there was supposed to be a debate tonight on Fox. It was canceled because Trump said he wasn't going to do it. Kasich agreed. I want to get your take on this real quickly, Franco. Who benefits the most by not having a debate tonight?
Well, it's certainly not the American people who, despite what folks like I may think about the Republican candidates, the clown car, as I've called it from time to time, they deserve to hear what these people are going to say, because there is a chance. Yes, I think Hillary Clinton will be the next president, but there's always a chance.
So you say the American people don't benefit. Liz, who do you say?
Oh, I think probably it was pretty good for Trump. I mean, he's in the lead. The front runner doesn't really benefit from standing up once again and taking being hit on by beaten up by Ted Cruz and John Kasich. So what does he have to gain, really?
All right, we'll leave it there. We got to go to commercial break, but stick around because we still have a lot more to talk about. We're going to talk about Sanders and whether or not he's going to stick with it. Welcome back to Newsmax Now. Bernie Sanders vows to move forward with his campaign despite reports that President Obama allegedly told Democrats to rally behind Hillary Clinton. Now, during an interview with CBS this weekend, Sanders pushed back against critics who say his campaign has run its course.
In the last NBC poll, we were 18 points ahead of Donald Trump, far more so than Secretary Clinton. I think that will play a factor in the coming states.
Now, so far, Clinton's maintained her status as a frontrunner for the Democratic nomination, winning all 5 states during last Tuesday's primary. Now, several Democratic senators are also calling for Sanders to wind down his campaign. So far, not a single Democratic senator has endorsed Sanders. Politico reports nearly a dozen lawmakers suggest he should spend more time on stopping Donald Trump and less time talking about Clinton's stance on trade, financial regulation, and foreign policy, and why she would be a flawed president. Democrats worry that the longer Sanders sticks around, the more damage he could do to Clinton come this fall. And that's where we would like to bring back today's roundtable. Rejoining us once again, Liz Peek, columnist of the Fiscal Times, and Franco Ripple, Democratic media strategist. Thanks for sticking around, guys. And thanks for that teaser, Liz. You kind of gave us a little tease talking about this. So first question to you, though, Franco. I want to hear your reaction. By staying in the race, you're a Democrat, I know you're a Hillary supporter, but by staying in the race, does Bernie Sanders run the risk, if he should lose, of damaging Hillary's campaign?
Well, yes, you're right. I am a Hillary Clinton supporter, but I tell you what, I think it's great that we're actually having this debate, that we have 2 great candidates for president who are out there talking about the issues. And I think, as Senator Sherrod Brown said, no one is calling on Bernie Sanders to get out of the race, and they shouldn't. And I think that's for a reason. I think it's because it's good for America. It's good for the voters to have this spirited discussion. But as for whether or not, whether he should bow out or not, or whether he should be talking more about Donald Trump, I do think that it's time for him to pivot towards talking about how do we stop Donald Trump, and how his vision for America, if there is one, would be incredibly dangerous. And I think ultimately that's what he'll begin to do.
Liz, now, you just heard Franco mention it. While many Democrats may want Sanders to call it quits, they're not exactly coming out and saying that directly. They're very diplomatic about that. Why do you think that is?
Well, he has an enormous number of followers, for one thing. And as far as him getting out of the race, from Sanders' point of view, he is really deeply entrenched in this race. He's out raising Hillary Clinton in terms of bringing in money. He raised over $43 million in February, for example, and she raised about 30. He's spending a lot, but I think he's got about $17 million in the bank or thereabouts, which is probably more than any other candidate except for Hillary Clinton. So he can continue on. I mean, generally speaking, when candidates are broke, they leave the contest. As far as since I'm a Republican and I don't want to see Hillary coronated, I'm delighted he's in the race for this reason. He continues to be her liberal conscience or her progressive conscience. Hillary Clinton's been around a long time. She's taken almost every side of every issue over the years, and it will be, according to the Clinton game plan, if you will, to now start pivoting back to the center to compete more effectively against whoever the Republicans nominate. With with Sanders sort of nipping at her heels, she will not be able to do that. She's going to have to continue to answer him progressive issue by progressive issue. As a Republican, I'm delighted with that because I don't think most Americans really stand where Hillary does or Bernie Sanders does on issues like trade and immigration and gun control and so forth. So I think she's vulnerable if he continues in this race. So I'm thrilled. As to whether or not it's good for her, I can't say.
Well, it sounds like you both are. Go ahead. I want your response to that, Franco.
Yeah, I think what Liz is trying to say is that Hillary Clinton has proven that she's the pragmatic progressive who shares many of the same values as Bernie Sanders, perhaps not on things like gun control, where she's a little bit more progressive, but she shares many of the same values with Bernie Sanders, but she's demonstrated she has a record of being able to get things done. I think it's very telling that of all the folks who have served with both Senator Sanders and then Senator Clinton in the Senate, that they've all endorsed Senator Clinton. I think that says a lot from their shared colleagues.
Okay, now I'm going to ask both of you, and I need your direct, honest answer. Does he have a shot of winning the Democratic nomination? Liz, let's start with you. Does he have a chance? And I know he's impressed everybody so far, so has Donald Trump. Does he have a shot of beating Hillary for the Democratic nomination?
Only if the FBI investigation ends up with some legal problems for Hillary, whether it's an indictment of her or some sort of censorship, because I think that's a real possibility. I don't think that the FBI is doing this for fun. Otherwise, no, I don't think Bernie Sanders can become the nominee.
Franco?
Well, we would never give you anything but a straight and honest answer, fair and balanced. That's the truth.
There you go.
Yeah. So I think, no, Senator or Secretary Clinton will be the nominee. And I think for the reason being is because she has, I think, broader appeal and strength with a wider demographic group across the country that's more representative of America.
Well, at least I didn't make both of you raise your right hand. Liz, Franco, thank you both for joining us. Appreciate your honesty.
Yes.
Coming up next on Newsmax Now, the president's Supreme Court nominee continues to dominate. This time, the Sunday talk show circuit. We'll give you a look at the highlights coming up next. Plus, we still want to hear from you. Tell us what you think about President Obama visiting Cuba today. You can tweet us at Newsmax Now, or you can leave us a comment on our Facebook page, and we'll air some of your comments coming up shortly after the show. Stay with us.